Swastika, are you there?
Sorry?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Sneha Ru. I'm a palliative physician and founder of Ori Kalankini. Ori Kalankini is an organization that's changing narratives around menstruation and sexuality in India using art, theatre, and dialogue. This series is called Leaning into the Network series, where we bring people from different parts of our network to meet each other, share skills, share their journeys, and specific COVID relief efforts they're doing. So today, I'm very happy to bring Swastika Thapa. Swastika is from DLR Prerna, which is based in Darjeeling. Hi, Swastika.
Hi, Sneha.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Her topic will be TOTs, so training of trainers. How do you hold them, why they are important, and all the important steps that go into it. Before I hand over the mic to Swastika, I would want to tell you that we are live on Facebook. So if you have any questions, please type in the Facebook comments so that we address it taking the last 15 minutes. So Swastika, I'll ask you the first question, which we ask everyone. When in your life were you made aware of your gender? Like, do you remember the first time you were told that you're a girl and this is how everything around it?
Yeah. So basically, the first time I was made aware of my gender was after I had my menstruation. So that time, onwards, after I had my menstruation, then my family, my mother especially, she told me, okay, now we have, you are a grown up girl, and do this. There are certain restrictions to be followed. There are certain hygiene measures that you need to be followed, and all those things. So that time, I was made aware of my gender. I can say that.
Can you talk a little about what you do at DLR Prerna? Like, I know that you have a whole lot of projects. I would like people to know what you do.
Sorry, I just cut you there.
Yeah. So can you talk about what work you do at DLR Prerna? Because your projects are very exciting and I want people to know the amount of work that you do.
Yeah. So basically, Darjeeling Prerna or DLR Prerna is a organization which works on community issues, and it is based in Darjeeling. And we have a number of projects running right now where, we work on child mental health, we work on the sustainable menstruation, we work on water sanitation, we work on agroforestry. So there are multiple teams within our organization, and multiple, each team handles their own project. So basically, the one which I'm involved in is water sanitation project, and in which, the sustainable menstruation is a important part of this. So apart from my project activities, I also conduct various type of awareness programs. I conduct trainings at the community level, or even in the urban and rural context. So these are my work in, to summarize it.
Right. And you also have training of trainers as one of the main things that you do among the sustainable menstruation part and wash together, the intersection. Can you talk a bit about that?
Okay. Yeah. So I started working in sustainable menstruation after I came back, after I attended a workshop which was in Kerala, and there was an awareness drive which was going on. So it was organized by this Sustainable Menstruation Kerala Collective. So I had got an opportunity to be a part of this. So we went to Kerala, and then I saw there, because menstruation was something which we were talking about previously in our project, but the sustainability component was missing in our interventions. And then after coming back, I was very, very surprised to know the facts, of the sanitary napkins, the implications that it has been doing on the environment and the health. So I thought this is very, very necessary, and every girl or every menstruator have the right to know what is in their pad. So this thing motivated me, and then I generally started adding this component, the sustainability part, in all of my, like, the awareness programs which I did. And before starting, like, promoting all the sustainable products, I also wanted to feel like, how to use it, what is the experience, so that I can share. So I personally made a switch myself first, and then started with the awareness programs on sustainable menstruation.
Right. Thank you so much. So I will now hand over the mic to you, and if you could, start your webinar, and post that we'll take questions if there are any questions. So I'll share screen now.
Yeah. So can we have the slide?
Yeah. Is it good?
Yes.
Over to you.
Yeah. So to start with, I will basically be talking about how to conduct training of trainers on menstrual hygiene management. So this is the topic which I have been doing, like, almost, like, many times. And training of trainers in menstrual hygiene management, I personally feel is very important, like, because it is, menstrual hygiene itself is a very sensitive, and to break the silence, we need to have people who will carry forward our work, even after, like, phase out from that particular community you're working in. So that way, how and so the next slide, please. So before starting any kind of training of trainers, what you need to do is, you need to tell the participants, like, what are you planning to say, why are they here, and why is it important to talk about menstrual hygiene management. Though every one of us know that menstrual hygiene is a neglected issue, a subject in our society, and there are a lot of myths and taboos associated with it. So it is very, very essential to make the trainers understand that why it is important to talk about menstruation. And secondly, you can also start by sharing your own experiences or personal stories to break the silence on menstruation. So this tool has been very effective in my work personally, because when we conduct such trainings and we assemble the people trainers together, there is some kind of awkward silence when you first start talking about menstruation. So to break that silence, if you start up with, like, your own personal stories, like, on menstruation, how did you first, what was the experience on your first period, how did you feel, like, who came up to you, what did you do, and all this. If you will share these personal stories, then the silence can be broken and people will be more comfortable to talk about it. And at the end of the each training, it's very important to draw, to summarize the whole, the training, and then carry your, like, way forward with them. Next slide, please. So there are few steps, there are basically three steps that we need to take care and remember before starting this training of trainers. So first step is that you should always know your target group. Whom do you want to address the training, and what how can you make sure that these people are participating? So training of trainers is basically, for at least a minimum of 3 days is required, to make it more participated, because training of trainers usually involves a lot of group works where, you engage them in various kind of activities. So these group works are an essential part of the training. uh, so that is also one thing you should keep in your mind. And what is the motivation to participate? You should always, talk to your audience, or before selecting the trainers, you need to uh, keep this thing in mind, that what is the motivation, the interest, and how can you make sure that these people are participating. the other thing is the number. So the number of people you can handle. So this is also important, because since to make it participatory, you need to have a good number of people that you can handle well. So if you involve a lot of people, then it will be very difficult for you to handle the training and to give attention. So minimum, at least for my experience, I take about only 20 at one time. So that ways I will be able to engage them more, and also like the communication process is more better. And like I said, the next point is participatory. You must make a TOT as participatory as you can, and decide on the selection criteria. Next slide, please. So the next step, what you need to do is to what are the objectives of the training or communication. This thing should be very clear, like what kind of knowledge or awareness and skills do you want to develop among the participants. So for this you have to again like find out like what kind of like if the trainer is really interested in the topic or not, and the knowledge that you want to transfer, the objectives of the training, and what do you expect after the training is complete, what do you expect from them. So these also should be kept in mind. And during and end of the training, check whether these objectives have been reached. So what I basically like for my personal experience, what do I do is, like I always conduct some kind of post and pre-test. So by doing that, I will be able to know what kind of the change in knowledge, or uh, like before the training what kind of knowledge do they have, and after the training what kind of knowledge they did gather from the training. So this way, like I will be able to identify the gaps in knowledge, and whether the training was helpful or not. By this I will be able to see the knowledge growth. And this is a very helpful tool. And the participants opinions can be assessed with simple evaluation of feedback methods. Next slide, please. So next, step 3 is what topics should be covered. So be it MHM, or be it waste management, or be it anything, be it any other relevant topics, like you should design your TOT in such a way that your topics will achieve the objectives. And what is your main message that you want to deliver to these trainings. And you must include as much as examples where possible, like real life examples, your own personal examples in this training, so that will be able to make it more participatory. So next slide, please. So time taken for TOT, as I already mentioned in the previous slides also, that you can't just do a TOT in one day. At least for me, my TOTs, at least they have for 3 days minimum to make it more participatory and group work. So what I start with my taboos, and then personal stories I narrate to them, and then there is a lot of group works, and then I talk about sustainability. So all these things should be properly planned, and at least a minimum of 3 days should be given to make it more participatory and interactive. So, and the next is other things to keep in mind is what do you want to see the change in your training, in your trainers post training, and define the objectives to the participant clearly. So for this, you need to tell the trainers that what do you expect from them after the training. It's not only for them to just get the training and then, but their way forward, what they want, what their roles are, and what the responsibilities are should be clearly communicated with them. And next slide. And the other thing which is very important is to know your audience. So different people have different expectations, and they come from different backgrounds. So it is very essential to keep this thing in mind. Some trainers may be a very jolly person, some may be short-tempered, some may be a politician, who wants to deliver speeches and all, and some may be very studious. So keeping things sensitive to all this, trainers, the training should be designed in such a way, and to go to also know what the expectations are is very, very essential. Next slide. Yes. So now it is up to you whether you want to make your training participatory, or like just a lecture type. So it's for you to decide what you want to do. So in the lecturer, what basically is that is, it imparts knowledge, reveals subjects, explain the context, show example, create awareness. But as a facilitator, to make it more engaging and participatory, you need to ask the challenging questions, create an atmosphere of learning, and provide the opportunities for positive experience, and promote the participants' self-confidence. So to make it more participatory and engaging, it is best for the trainers to act as a facilitator, and make sure that the trainings are not only lecture based. Next slide, please. Next one. Yeah. So throughout the training, it is very essential to also remind them, the trainers, for constant motivation and inspiration, that why are they doing this? Why is the need to talk about this menstruation, or like since we are talking about menstruation, I will refer to menstruation only. So why is it important? The need, the challenges, the problems, that the girls or any other menstruators are facing. So it is constantly important to explain them, or to question themselves, that why is it important, and this why will also help and keep the trainers motivated. Next slide, please. So now there are different methods that you can be used to conduct TOTs. First is brainstorming. You can conduct the trainings also through brainstorming process, or some interactive talks, illustrative talks, or maybe a group discussions or focus group discussions, panel discussions, participatory evaluation of training. So there are different kinds of methods that can be used in conducting TOT, and it's not only that you can limit yourself to a lecture, or in a closed space, but there are other interactive methods also which you can do. Next slide, please. And I think this is probably my last slide, and it talks about how to engage and motivate participants after. So it is always necessary, as I already mentioned earlier also, that to keep the trainers motivated, it should be, the whole TOT should be very interactive, it should be very participatory, and what you want them, what you expect them from the after the training, should be clearly mentioned to them before the training. And how you can engage and motivate participants is being in constant touch, for example, follow up and updates. So after the training also, after they planning the way forward, which is a part of this training, so TOTs. So after that also, it's very essential for them to be in you connect and check with them, calling and saying what are they doing, or what are the challenges they are facing. So constant touch will also help them become uh, motivated. And another way what you can do is plan a way forward, as I was mentioning. What do they want to do, expect change, and plan accordingly. And also sharing of success stories may be another way by which you can motivate your trainers. And identifying and constant guidance should also be there, where you can identify the problems that they are facing, and how you can address them can be planned again together. And you can also use proper media channels. So so these are the things to keep in mind while you conduct a. These are very basic, short and sweet, some helpful tips. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Swastika. This was very concise, concise, but it was very informative. I have two questions, and meanwhile, I will look on the Facebook page if people have more questions, so we can take it later. My question was regarding selection of participants. You said there should be a selecting criteria for the trainers or willing to be trainers. What criteria do you use in your workshop when you're choosing them?
Okay, so for me, like we are working in a T state, and then we have different communities there, which are divided according to the size and population and the area. And every area, like they have this local samaj or community based organizations there. So what we basically do in our work is like first initially when we conduct any kind of trainings, or we do any kind of activities in the field, we always consult and work closely with these community based organizations. So that way, like we can cover the whole area, because every member in the village is a part of the samaj or the community based organization. So when we have to select these participants for the training, we communicate with them and we explain our, these trainings, like what do we intend to do, the objectives, like why it is important, and that we need this kind of people from your village. So kindly, like give us suggestions, like, or give us the names of like so and so people, so many number of people from here. So like they just select it and they then give us the names.
So, from what I
That
hear,
is
you are paying attention to geographical diversity, and one of the criteria is that
yeah.
person from the community should come as a trainer, so that they're
Yes,
doing work for their own.
yes. And also, like we also try to involve people who have already been working in this sector, or maybe health, or like who is a like worker in a nurse in a dispensary, which is there in the community, on the hospitals, or maybe teachers, so that is the way how we uh, select.
So, in your training, you're also looking at how many people can they impact. So you're finding the nodes among people, and then if the person has larger impact on the community, they're the right people to be a trainer. Is that
Yeah,
right?
somebody who can influence.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, training criteria can be very diverse, um, project to project and area to area. Thank you for sharing yours. I had one more question before I go to Sanjay Suman's question. Sanjay Suman has left many questions on our Facebook wall, so we'll get there. One question I want to address is you spoke about, that was the best part I liked about the presentation, that you spoke difference between teaching and facilitating. While that a training module can combine both, like there can be aspects which are to be taught, which the knowledge has to be imparted, and certain sections can be facilitation based. I want to know how do you make your learning, how do you make your environment conducive to learning? Because we said that, okay, we have to create a space where people can learn together. It's very thriving environment for learning. What steps have you taken, or what do you do to make sure the environment is created like that?
Okay. uh, so first, I said about facilitating and the lecture base. So facilitating basically involves like where the participants can share their stories, their personal experiences, and I try and do a lot of group work in the trainings, like where every participants will get an opportunity to come forward and present the group work they have done. So and
Mm.
then you know um, so these are like some of the methods, like the engaging them in group work, telling them to share their stories or talk about any like topic which I give them. So that way it has been helpful. And also games in between, like a lot of games.
Right. Yeah, and it also one of the from my experience I've seen one of the important ways to create an atmosphere of learning is for the facilitator themselves to be able to constantly adapt. So if a participant is like, okay, can we have a Google Doc with all the events in one place? and even though that's not in the plan, to modify. And that brings, I have seen that brings the aspect of, yeah, I can be wrong and it's okay to be wrong and we're all learning here. So I've seen that also encourages a lot, that creates a learning environment, not to be scared of making mistakes or not to be scared of learning.
Yes, yes.
Um, yeah, so let's go to Sanjay Suman. He's from Patna. And so, just a moment. They say, what were the challenges faced by you when this has been mothers and parents? What are the key activities around sustainable menstrual hygiene? I'm just reading out all the questions. You can pick and choose because many I think you have already addressed. Did you try out or dry run during the TOT post training by participants and key experiences shared by them? Also, I'll read two more. Will it be possible to share training guides or any other relevant resource on sustainable menstruation with us? And he's given the email ID to share the curriculum or a guide if you have prepared. तो एक था कि आपने ग्राउंड में did you face any challenges?
Ground while conducting TOTs, right? The question. Okay, while conducting TOTs, challenges which I faced is like, sometimes in the community, since the people are busy, they have their own routine, so it is not possible for some of them to conduct to participate in all the 3 days program. So this is one of the challenge that I faced, because even if they are tea garden laborers, or they work locally somewhere, they have their time. So time is also one of the important factor that we should consider, taking into consideration, when are they free, the time which is convenient or suitable for them. Because generally what happens is we only think about our convenience, I will conduct this, but it's very important for them, for us to also ask them, when is the suitable time, when are you convenient, and all that. Especially nowadays what we have done is we try and conduct trainings during the weekends, like Sunday when they are free. But though Sunday is our off, we try and make that extra effort from our side. So that ways participation can be the full course can be completed. Otherwise, if a person just does 1 day training and then goes away, vanishes, and doesn't come the next day, he or she does not get the full knowledge. So that is one of the challenges that we have faced, and then learn to adapt to it.
Can you speak a little bit about the success you have seen with your TOT participants? Because you said, they also work in tea garden. They have lives apart from being a trainer of menstrual hygiene management. So how do you make sure that they're doing both, or have you seen them continuing to do this? Any success stories you want to share?
Yeah. So what we generally do is we also select, during our selection criteria for this trainers, we select some women supervisors from the T state. So these women supervisors, during their lunchtime or when they have breaks in between, they try and talk to them, but not on a very training sort of a thing, but just a pure educator sort of a relationship, like talking about generally, this thing, I went to the training and then I learned this thing. You know that this is actually this is the case. Menstruation is talked about during the training, and then pass on the message very very casually, as if you are talking, interacting conversation. So that is one way which they go and conduct this TOT through peer educators.
Yeah, that's great.
And also
Actually, go on, please.
yeah, and also in their neighborhood, the same way, not in a training sort of environment, but passing on knowledge, casual way.
Shall I go ahead? Because
Yeah,
this
yeah, sure.
video and audio is lagged, so I'm not able to know when you finished. Yeah, and one person, like one of the very good facilitators I look up to, they say that maximum learning happens in informal spaces, like between
Yes,
the class,
exactly.
say in canteen, say in you're sitting in the field and having conversation, you're sitting for chai, and maximum learning happens there. Uh, yeah, so I think this model is like just a proof for that. When you're not making it very formal and training side, it's really helpful.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Yes, yes.
end of our interview, do you want to add anything that you want to say? Last few thoughts before we end this. What are the three best
Mm.
like experiences you've had, or how have you changed as a person after getting into ecofeminism or sustainable menstruation work? How has Swastika changed?
So, firstly, I also have been brought up in a family which comes with, along with the menstrual taboos and, practices. So, I have been a part of that since I got my first menstruation, because I was also restricted from doing certain activities during that time. But as time passed on, and as I got a chance to, talk about menstruation, I wanted to then that time I realized that there is nothing wrong in menstruation, because never had a relationship with my male family where I could openly discuss about menstruation. But over the period of time, it has changed a lot. After I took this initiative, and after I started working on menstrual health, my entire thought process, which I used to think, has been totally changed. And now I can just talk about menstruation with anyone and everyone. I feel like very, very comfortable. I don't hesitate on that topic, and definitely I can see a positive, growth in me when it comes to, menstruation and these taboos and all. Because what I do in most of my session is also like the taboos are still there, especially in young children. They come up to me saying that, Didi, when you're mentioning, is this true and all that, she did ask me. And then I say them, just go and try it yourself first, and just tell me the next time when you meet me whether it dies or not. So these are some like small examples that I give them. And then they I've been like seeing some changes in, them also, through this practical knowledge.
Right. Once what happened, one person from Uttarakhand, like I was there in Nainital for a while and I was working. One Kishori Mandal we worked with, and one person from the Kishori Mandal called me one day, and I'm back in Delhi and I'm sitting at home. She called me. She's like, "उनको पता नहीं चलता." I was like, "क्या पता नहीं चलता?" So then the backstory was, there they have a tradition that there's certain puja kind of thing that happens where the ancestors are called or deities are called. And it is a known thing that people who are menstruating should not go there, or else the deity won't come, or they'll come to know and they will, throw them out or punish them or curse them. And this one girl from Kishori Mandal, she went when she was menstruating into the puja without telling anybody. And that was like, the way she called me and said, okay, this is the victory and this is like that. And it was a discovery. She's like, हाँ, हमको पता नहीं चलता. And I felt like, oh my God, she's going to get me into trouble. Like, so much. Yeah, but it's very nice to see the courage they have. Like, I would not, I also came from family similar to yours.
Yeah.
So I would not have the courage to, even as an adult, to go to the puja room or to go to the temple. I took a long time and they just
Yeah,
did
yeah.
this. Yeah. Sorry, I
And
lost.
that's also, you come to know how deeply the taboo is enrooted in you.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. And earlier the better. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even tell that do this experiment or anything. She did it herself and she called back and told me. So, I always think that just getting them to question and critique is enough. And the taboos they'll only break. and what changes they have to make, they know better. So
Yeah.
just giving them the tool of critiquing and questioning and the courage, I mean, that's what we focus on mostly.
Okay.
It was great talking to you, Swastika. I want to ask one last question, though I told the last question was the last question.
Yes, please.
Tomorrow is World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and I know you're doing a lot of stuff in your organization. Can you talk about your programs planned for tomorrow?
Okay. So tomorrow we are having this online conversation on periods, and we are doing it in Zoom. And then we have session planned out where people, we are trying to make it a very, like, interactive session where we only don't talk as presenters, but even people, we have invited some people, like, who can talk about their experiences on making a switch, or like, on taboos like they faced during the experiences. So all are also invited, like, please kindly join us for the conversations tomorrow, and then let's talk and try to break the taboos, menstrual taboos that we have. So this is going to start from 11:30 in the morning till 1 o'clock, and then evening from 3 to 4 p.m. we have a panel discussion. So it's facilitated by Zero Waste Himalaya. So this is we have four speakers, and including me as one of them. And everyone, I request everyone to kindly join, like, and let's break the silence on periods. Thank you.
Can you talk about your social media handles? Where can they find the registration form, and how do they go
Yeah.
about it?
So we have a social media Facebook page called Sustainable Menstruation Himalaya and Sustainable Menstrual Darjeeling, and Instagram page on Sustainable Period Himalaya. So these two, you can, like, check this out, and then you can join the session also.
Thank you so much, Swastika. Your presentation and talking to you was very informative and so much fun. I wish that people will come back to this presentation again and use it as a tool whenever they design their own TOT. Thank you for your expertise and time.
Thank you so much, Sneha, for having me. Look forward to have the sessions more.
Yeah. Bye bye. Thank you for people on Facebook who joined us.